Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me as a WhatsApp voice note, and the story reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a woman, my brother, who lost a child. When I lost my child after a very long time trying to conceive after 10 years, unfortunately, my enemies then got the better of me because this child of mine passed away when he was only 9 days old. That was when he passed away. And what surprised everyone was that at the time when we woke up and when we saw that my child, his remains was lying on top of his grave, we rushed there because there were some young boys that were taking their cattle, going with them to the fields. That was when one amongst the boys saw that there was something that was placed on top of my son's grave. Then they found out that the corpse was actually the one that was lying on top of my son's grave. Well, in our culture, we do not bury our children close to the graves of the elderly people. So I had not even gotten the chance to go and see where my son had been buried, because they said that this thing, it was supposed to be done without me knowing. Otherwise, it was going to be very difficult for me to give birth again. So those old people from the village, the ones that no longer give birth, the ones that no longer sees their menstrual cycle, they were the ones that took the corpse of my child and they went and they buried the corpse of my child at this area where it is always wet. So when these boys were busy going around with their cows, that was when they found out that my son's body was lying on top of that grave. We rushed there, my brother, and even though it was a taboo, but everything that had happened just made people from the village to let me see where my son had been buried. What I saw, my brother, it was truly terrifying what I saw on that day, because there was no sign of like animal footprints whereby you could say that this animal is the one that pulled out the corpse of my boy. Well, if it was an animal, why didn't the animal eat the corpse? And there was no footprints at all. Everything that had happened there, you could actually see that this was a human being. But what surprised us a lot was that there was a particular hole that they had used to bring up the corpse that belonged to my boy, and this hole, it was really small. The whole grave, it was not touched except for that small hole. It was like they had actually drilled straight into the grave by an imaginary drill. Then they took the corpse of my boy upwards. Then when we looked at the corpse of my boy, we then found out that he didn't have his eyes and they had taken his private parts as well. I started crying because I kept on thinking about how I had been trying to fall pregnant for the past 10 years. And during those 10 years, it was not like I had never fallen pregnant. I had fallen pregnant 4 times, and my enemies, it seemed as if they were waiting for my pregnancy to go at least for about 4 months, when the child would be at least developed, whereby you can see that this is a human being. That is when I would have that miscarriage. The first time around, my brother, when I got married to my husband, my auntie, she was the one who took me. My auntie took me to my husband's village where I was now supposed to be married to. This was after I had fallen pregnant for my husband. As for my husband, he had been staying and working in Harare, and at that time I was still going to school. Well, I fell in love with him because he used to take care of me a lot. And well, you know, boys, when they take care of you, the next thing that they want is to sleep with you. So this guy, he then started sleeping with me since he was taking care of me a lot. And before I would even know it, I then found out that I was pregnant. When I found out that I was pregnant, before I had even told my own mother, there was something that actually happened to me. Like at night, I would wake up, like in the first month of my pregnancy, then I would feel that there is something like a child that will be nestling on my breast. Sometimes I would even wake up, then I would see that out of my nipples, milk will just be coming out, like the breast milk will be coming out. Yet my pregnancy was not even 2 months. This was the first time when I fell pregnant, and that is the reason as to why my mother quickly realized that I was pregnant, because milk was constantly just running out of my nipples. Then my mom, when she looked at me, she said, "You are pregnant." When I told her that this pregnancy that I was carrying, it was about 1.5 months at that time, she said, "You are lying. This can only happen when your pregnancy is progressed." So everyone thought that my pregnancy had progressed, and since this was like my first pregnancy, they said that maybe my pregnancy was hiding in my breast because they were really big, full of milk. Yet I was not even yet 2 months pregnant. When I was taken to my husband's people by my auntie, that was when the strangest thing happened to me. One early morning, that was when I was woken up by this very serious back pain. I screamed, my brother, I screamed so much, and my mother-in-law, she was just waiting outside. I don't know how she actually knew that I was about to scream in pain. She immediately started knocking on the door. She knocked so much on the door. When I opened the door, my brother, to my surprise, I then saw that it was somewhere around 5 a.m. because it was a little bit dark. Since I was in pain, I was unable to ask my mother-in-law what was she doing outside so early in the morning. Well, she rushed into that small bedroom that I was now using as my bedroom, me and my husband. Even though my husband, he would be working in the city, then he would visit me once or twice a month. Then my mother-in-law, I saw that she was holding some herbal mix. I asked her what was that, and she said that these are the leaves of the holy tree, the mohacha tree that is used to communicate with our ancestors. So I have made this herbal mix so that if there is anything that is going to hurt my grandchild that you are carrying, may the ancestors forgive me. Please, my ancestors, do not punish this woman because of my sins. That was really scary, my brother. She made me to drink that thing. She said, quickly drink it before the sun rises up. You have to drink it before the sun rises up, before the ancestors go and rest. Each and every morning, she would ask me a lot of questions, my brother, until finally I started to have discharge. And when I was having discharge, I then found out that I saw that there was hair that was mixed with the discharge. So first time when this discharge was coming out, I thought that maybe I have been keeping this pubic hair for too long. I then shaved myself. I removed all the pubic hair. Then the discharge continued. But this hair, it was just still coming out with the discharge. I then found out that when my baby, after I had that miscarriage, the baby had teeth as well as he actually had the hair as if he was a fully born baby. It was something that was terrifying to me. I returned back to my people. We went to different white garment churches, but it was still the same. Things were no longer like the way that it used to be in the bedroom with my husband. Sometimes my husband, when he would wake up, then we would find out that just beside him, he would actually had produced, like his seed will be all over the bed or the sheeting. And my husband, he said that this thing, it had started soon after the miscarriage. When he had returned back to Harare, that was when he started to experience those things whereby he would just have a dream and sleeping with a woman that will be pregnant. Even right now, my husband, it is even worse. He is now saying that this woman actually appears to him. This woman for the past 10 years has been appearing to him whilst he is pregnant. Now that I have lost my child, I do not even know what I should do. I don't know if I should continue hanging on in this marriage. As for my in-laws, they love me a lot. My in-laws, they are not wealthy, but they have a life that is okay. All of my sister-in-laws, they got married and they moved out of the country. They are in UK. Then one, she is the one who went to Canada. Her husband was the one who went there first as a refugee. Then she followed. So these in-laws of mine, they provide a lot for my mother and my father-in-law. They also provide for me and my husband. They actually bought my husband a car the last time around when I had a miscarriage. They said that use this car as a business. They said that use this car for your small business. If you want to start any business, use this car. So they are telling me that we do not want to lose you, Makoti. Just stay there. God is going to give you a child one day. But this is really painful to me because I keep on asking myself, well, when they say that God is going to give me a child one day, what about the child that God had already given to me, but the child was snatched away from me? And then those enemies of mine, they actually pulled him out of his grave when he thought he had rested. Then they came for him in the night and they removed his eyes as well as his private parts. Hey, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear sister. Such a sad story, such a sad story. Yo.